Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, it's only been alive as a nation for less than 80 years. Some of its neighbors want to wipe it out, and it's approximately the size of New Jersey. So what is it about Israel to make it rank fourth in the UN's World Happiness Report? Why is life in Israel so cohesive and satisfying to its citizens? And how has the Jewish culture stayed strong for centuries? All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. What we're about to share with you is an unabashed Valentine to Israel. Its strength, its courage, and its resilience. We're highlighting the genius of Israel. That's the name of a book by Senor and Saul, and of a documentary CBN has done about the book. We'll start with an interview with CBN's Erin Zimmerman, the director of The Genius of Israel. She and I spoke about one of our favorite subjects, which happens to be one of the marvels of human history. That is, how the Jewish culture has survived for thousands of years. Here's our conversation. Erin Zimmerman, great to be with you. You've got a film called The Genius of Israel. Tell us about it.
Well, it's based on a book called The Genius of Israel by the great Senor and Saul. They wrote a book last year, before the war in Israel, by the way, and they had this question: why are Israelis so happy? Because last year, you know, every year the UN puts out this World Happiness Report, and usually it's all the Scandinavian countries are at the top. But last year they got a surprise. Number 4 was Israel, surrounded by terrorists, surrounded by enemy nations. Okay, what's the deal with this? Why are they so happy? And so this book and this film examines exactly why that is.
What are some of the secrets to the genius of Israel?
Okay, well, one of them is the community, and one of them, it's sort of all the things that we're throwing away in Western society. You know, we're saying now, oh, we don't need the family, we don't need a mother, father, children, we don't need all of this community, we're good on our own. You know, America, you're individualistic, you do things on your own. And that's the exact opposite, because Israel has the lowest drug overdose, lowest suicide, lowest alcohol consumption. They're the youngest country having the most children of all the wealthy nations in the world. And so that community is what is giving them the hope and the happiness. And when we say happiness, let me say, it's not just sort of like rah, rah, cheerful happiness. This is the questions are based on deep life satisfaction. And so Israelis, they say, you know, every Friday you have Shabbat, even whether you're religious or not. And you don't just go see your parents, maybe. You go see grandparents, you see aunts and uncles and cousins. And there's this deep family tie, so that you're not alone. You're always in a community. So you have that. Your schools are very community-based. They have strong scout movements for children here that are very community-based. You go into the army and you're part of that. So you're always part of your family. You're part of your country. You're part of the rest of your society. No one's left out in the cold, and that's a very different picture from what we have in Western countries.
How does God fit into this, in their faith?
It's really interesting. I asked them that, and there wasn't so much a difference. Of course, God is in the center of it all, I believe. And I think God has kept the Jewish people through many generations. You know, they say in the Passover, every generation a Haman rises up to kill us, depending on, you know, whoever that is this time. This year it's Hamas. God is at the center of that. He's the one keeping them. Yes, are they independent and defending themselves, and do they have resilience? Absolutely. They wouldn't do it without God bringing back the Jewish people through 2,000 years of horror and Holocaust and war and you name it. So he's at the center of it, whether people want to say that or not. But I found the tradition level is about the same with religious and non-religious. The non-religious will still go home every week because if they don't, their parents will yell at them. You know, you better be here for Shabbat.
What do you want people to get out of this film?
There is so much anti-Semitism all over today, and I hate to see it. I hate to see the media. I hate to see the UN. Everybody's pounding Israel and saying, look, they're an apartheid state. They're causing a genocide in Gaza. It's simply not true. I want people to see what an amazing country Israel is. And whether you disagree with their government or not, whether you disagree with this war or not, you need to see the human side. You need to see these people are full of love and compassion and community. You know what really struck me here was when the hostages were taken. People here felt that as deeply as if they had been their own children. The majority of the state of Israel doesn't know these hostages. and yet they feel it so deeply. They cry. I've seen them crying, looking at the memorials, saying we have to get these home, marching for them. Now that for me is foreign. I don't see that level of care in the West for somebody you don't even know. But there's an extremely unified population here, and everything is about charity and love and doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know, it's the golden rule. Yeah. We can take a lot from that.
Yeah, well, I've seen that too. If anything you learn about Israel after being here is that they're a family. So that's how they identify with our sausages. And it's a great story that needs to be told. Erin, thanks so much for the film. We look forward to seeing it soon.
Thanks, Chris.
For a copy of this wonderful documentary, The Genius of Israel, go to geniusofisraelfilm.com. It's yours for a donation of any dollar amount. I think you and your family will really enjoy it. Well, Israel's seven-front war has put enormous pressure on its economy. Business analyst John Medved from our crowd, however, says that despite it all, Israel is not only surviving, but in some sectors thriving. The war simply has not wiped out the indomitable Israeli spirit. Far from it, and take a look. Fighting for survival is expensive.
So all of this costs money, and there are also impacts on certain parts of the Israeli economy, such as the construction, agriculture, where foreign workers, in particular Palestinians, have played a large role. They're now hard to get, and there is a shortage of labor, and in particular, tourism is challenging because of the travel schedules of flights.
That sector serves as one of Israel's most important economic engines. After the COVID shutdown, it boomed for nearly 2 years before the war brought tourism to a standstill. There is good news, though, thanks to the genius of Israel.
And the good news is that the major industry here in Israel, as you know, because we spend a lot of time talking about it, is high technology.
Known as the startup nation, high tech is responsible for more than half of Israeli exports, representing almost 20% of the country's gross domestic product.
The tech area is still very, very strong. We have amazing companies who lead the world in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and food technology, in defense technology, in the cloud, in alternative mobility and energy. And what's remarkable is that this year, already in 2024, in the midst of war, the investment dollars that are coming into the Israel tech scene have gone dramatically up, about 40% from last year, the second half. And that's, by the way, leading the world in terms of an uptick. The U.S. is doing well. Israel's doing better.
He describes why this biblical mission drives Israel.
Its roots are in the Bible. Its roots are in prophecy, and it's prophecy coming true. When you realize that the Jewish people, the indigenous people of this land, have come home after 2,000 years of wandering, have ingathered the exiles.
He describes why this biblical mission drives Israel.
We're a significant country, one of the strongest countries in the world in terms of our ability to defend ourselves, leading the world in many areas of technology, helping to cure cancer, helping to feed the planet, because we view our destiny and our mission is not just to survive. Survival's critical, but we need to contribute to the world. We need to build the world. We need to help fix things. It's called tikkun olam.
It's the same kind of resilience that helped Jews survive the Holocaust.
The dry bones from the prophecy of Ezekiel came up, and we succeeded. But we didn't just succeed to survive. We've succeeded in building a beautiful country, a country which is not just fun and great food and beautiful beaches and incredible infrastructure, but a country on the cutting edge of building the future, a country that believes in the future.
That belief in the future helps Medved look beyond immediate threats to take the long view of Israel's destiny.
We are a people who has suffered a great deal over thousands of years, and yet we're still here. A lot of our enemies from thousands of years ago, they're gone. There's no memory of them. And if you want a little prediction, organizations like Hamas, the whole purpose is to destroy the Jewish people. Well, I've got some advice for them. A lot of people have tried, better people than you, and they've all failed. You are going to fail, and there's going to be no memory of this kind of an organization in 1,000 years from now.
Israel is known for its innovations that make life easier around the globe. One issue now being tackled affects and often frustrates most of us each day: traffic. Paul Strand reports from Tel Aviv on the effort to put the rush back into the rush hour.
Traffic, everybody hates it. But one Israeli company has come up with a system to make traffic flow much more smoothly, that can turn lights exactly when needed, warn drivers away from potential accidents, and unsnarl rush hour commutes.
It's an invention of NoTraffic, headquartered here in Tel Aviv. When the company is enlisted to take over a community's traffic system, NoTraffic puts these sensors at intersections that then connect to sophisticated artificial intelligence.
And from that point on, the system works by itself autonomously.
CEO Tal Chrysler says these artificial eyes then watch movements in and around those intersections.
Private vehicles, buses, pedestrians, bicycles, scooters, whatever.
AI then proceeds to orchestrate traffic flow in order to keep it moving safely and quickly. That's led to amazing improvements in limiting the time motorists are held up.
We've managed to cut dramatic amount. We're talking about 70% of delay time.
With vehicles more computerized than ever, this new system will be able to communicate directly with individual drivers. That could lead to a warning about a pedestrian potentially in a blind spot about to cross in front of them. Another safety element is the system's ability to gauge if an oncoming vehicle might run a red light. If so, it can alert nearby drivers while also changing other lights to red at that intersection to prevent collisions. When accidents do happen, it can immediately contact first responders, then give them green lights all the way.
About 70% of fatality cases happening in the first hour after the accident. So literally every minute that we are saving, literally saving life.
Research shows an updated traffic system is sorely needed worldwide. That's because an additional 90 million cars hit the road each year. Traffic congestion increases 12% annually. As for those lights that hold you up block after block,
the way that we are operating them is remained the same for the last 100 years or so.
And there's little to no connection from intersection to intersection.
Most of the intersections out there are not connected to anything. They just run by themselves.
With NoTraffic sensors and artificial intelligence saturating a city's traffic grid, it enables each intersection to communicate with all the others. That allows the system to make split-second decisions to keep traffic moving. These sensors are designed to withstand the wear and tear that comes from constantly being out in the elements. Ian Fountain and his lab techs ensure each piece can stand up to the most extreme conditions.
We put them in the ovens, we heat them, we cool them, we add humidity.
In Fahrenheit, that's a range from -31 to a super hot 167 degrees. Now that a number of states like Florida, Arizona, and California utilize the system, NoTraffic has found that in a mid-sized city, its platform has reduced waiting times by as much as 50% or more. That efficiency can remove around 26,000 tons of CO2 emissions each year. That's like the pollution from 5,700 cars simply vanishing. To Chrysler, it's all positive transformation.
Improving our life, reducing emissions, generating massive amounts of time that we can now spend with our loved ones. And I think this is one of the things that we are the most proud of, like literally transforming the world to a better place.
The atmosphere and attitudes in Israel make it easier for an innovative system like NoTraffic's to be created here. Innovators are welcomed and cherished. Smart forward thinking is valued and rewarded. And Israelis see themselves as people who can solve global problems, both large and small, who can dream up solutions not yet seen, but waiting to be dreamed. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Tel Aviv.
The October 7th Hamas attacks devastated many Israeli communities on the Gaza border, but one community has a different story, a story of heroic resistance and survival. Our correspondent Chuck Colton brings us that inspiring account.
Ein Habesor is a small farming community just 4 miles from Gaza. As Hamas terrorists invaded on October 7th, this village became an unlikely stronghold of resistance.
We realized for the first second that this is something different. We took the kids to the shelter, and then the chief of security sent us a text message, go to the fence, to the gate, to defend our people. They're invading to Israel.
Pretty much every single kibbutz and small village around Israel has one of these big yellow security gates at the entrance, and most of the time they stay open, but the Hamas terrorists took advantage of that fact on October 7th by bringing jamming devices that wouldn't let people close those gates. And a split-second decision on the part of the guard at Ein Habesor probably saved hundreds of lives. As the attack unfolded, villagers found themselves drastically outgunned.
My brother was the only one with the rifle. That time in the front gate when they came with a pickup full of terrorists and motorcycles. And they came fully armed. It wasn't just a terror attack, there was a military operation.
When Gepner's brother was shot in the shoulder, Yiftach knew he had to get him to a hospital. So he loaded him in his car and sped out the back gate, right into a waiting squad of terrorists.
We saw the ambush of 2 pickups and several motorcycles with a bunch, about 30 terrorists, that start massive shooting on the car. My brother was hit for the second time in his hip and in his belly, several bullets. All the windows was exploding. I was managed to drive in reverse. We managed to escape.
Remarkably, no one from Ein Habesor was killed or kidnapped that day. The village's preparedness played a crucial role in their defense.
When the chief of security sent us a text message, they're invading, go out, we already had a group of 70 people that went out without even asking any question. Now it's a different story. Now we have enough rifle, enough handguns, anything we need to independently defend ourselves if there will be a situation like that.
Now, months later, the village is rebuilding and growing stronger.
Now, we are September 1st, this is the beginning of the school year, there are about 85% of the people that came back.
This resilience isn't just about security. It's about building a thriving community in the face of adversity.
We are opening a new sports center here in the Moshav. We're just going to be stronger because there is no other option that we're going to leave this piece of land, this beautiful piece of land, without having our people here.
For Dr. Gepner and his neighbors, the events of October 7th have only strengthened their resolve.
Israel was established after the Holocaust, with zero chance to establish the country. We survived the 67 war, the 73 war. Look at where we are now, when we have a strong, maybe the strongest army relative to the size of the population. We're going to win this war. This is not even a question. Keep that in mind. Israel will just be stronger following October 7th.
From Israel, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Tikkun Olam, the Jewish idea of making the world a better place, is one of the themes in The Genius of Israel. The Israeli psychiatrist in our next piece embodies that concept with his innovative treatment for post-traumatic stress. Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has the story.
After the October 7th massacre and a year of war, almost every Israeli household feels the stress of having family members and friends fighting in a conflict with no end in sight.
Anytime anybody turns on the television, people are traumatized because the length of the war. There are soldiers that unfortunately are dying all the time.
Dr. Gary Quinn leads the Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing Institute in Jerusalem. EMDR is one of the main ways therapists treat trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. Quinn says October 7th and its ongoing impact led to a unique situation affecting the entire nation.
These traumas of life and death, of horrific scenes, it's the kind of atrocities that one would hear about that one person went through. And here we had thousands of people that were going through.
For years, Dr. Quinn has helped terror victims and those traumatized by war. Treatment typically begins days following the event, so he pursued an idea for something that could be done immediately.
The ISP idea I came up with at a point when nobody was saying you do anything with people in the immediate aftermath of trauma.
Quinn explains that this immediate stabilization procedure, or IPS, begins by tapping one's own arms or shoulders or the table while focusing on the fact that they are now safe.
That is important because it means that it does not need to be done by a psychologist or a mental health professional, but can also be done by first responders or other people.
He tells CBN News the key is quickly bringing people out of a very high level of distress.
It has helped people who have been in the war and the soldiers that are coming off the lines and they're in frozen terror. And with a combination of bilateral stimulation, something of this nature, helps people then to realize or come back to the present awareness of safety in a relatively quick amount of time.
At the beginning of the Ukraine war, Dr. Quinn volunteered to train therapists to use it, then saw they first needed help themselves.
Because all of the therapists themselves were at a very high level of stress because of the war. We rate the stress level from 0 to 10, and they could be either 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and had to do the ISP first to calm them down.
This led to what he calls an incredible collaboration organized by Regent University and CBN Israel to modify the method.
It ends up being that the product came back in better condition, much more streamlined and much more effective and efficient in helping people.
Quinn feels encouraged with Israel's progress in recovering over the past year.
What I see is the raising of despair to hope, the transforming from individual and national tragedy to resilience and post-traumatic growth. And I'm only seeing heroes and people dealing with everything.
He says Israel's enemies thought launching missiles would break morale here, although Quinn believes it's made the country more resilient.
The people all care about people. There is not anyone that is not volunteering at doing something. And I think that this level of caring of the community is one of the key elements that is so much allowing for the kind of resilience for people to recover.
And that experience has led the doctor to give credit to God.
And if I had not been religious beforehand, boy, I am now religious. This is clearly God's hand taking the most awful of horrible experiences and having people transform it.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Kfar Maccabea, and Jerusalem, Israel.
Such a great story. For a copy of this wonderful documentary, The Genius of Israel, go to geniusofisraelfilm.com. It's yours for a donation of any dollar amount. I think you and your family will really enjoy it. Well, that's all for this special edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can also access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blasts. And please continue to pray for this amazing nation of Israel, that she will flourish and prosper in the days to come. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.